Joining us from her home in New South Wales is Robin Collins. Welcome to Soul to Soul, Robin.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Patricia.
We're waving.
Cyber waving back.
Now, you're an author and a spiritual teacher. You've been doing this for some time now. How did this all start for you?
Yes, so it's been, I would say 22 years. My journey began, unfortunately, I went through an existential crisis. My daughter died when she was a day old, unexpectedly. She was born quite healthy and there was no problems, and within 24 hours she developed a bronchial pneumonia. So that's actually how we lost her. So that was what started my journey. At that stage, at that time in my life, I was probably what you would call a practicing atheist.
Oh, right.
So I had no understanding of any sort of spirituality. I was just, going along day by day as only because my parents my dad was Catholic, my mum was Presbyterian, but back at that time we didn't have religion, forced down our throat, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because they had already gone through their own problems due to their religion that, they didn't want us to have to be brought up in a controlled organisation.
Yeah.
So we were just basically, had an understanding through school and scripture and things like that. But of course, at the time of a crisis like that, I was basically left hanging with no understanding whatsoever, and yet with a void of, the grief and the bereavement, which was filled with sadness and fear and anger, and so I actually had to sort of like crawl out of that hellhole myself. And so the crawling out of that hole of bereavement and to find purpose and reason for why do innocent children die? Why is there so much suffering in the world? So that actually what sparked my journey 22 years ago. Right.
Now, that was the cause, but how did you go about finding your answers? What was the first step for you out of that dark place?
Okay, so the first step was, a lot of the time, probably for about 2 years, the safety net at that stage was sleeping tablets and, a couple of glasses of wine before I went to bed of a night time. There was always a constant numbing, not wanting to feel the pain and the fears and not making sense out of it all. And I was surviving at that stage really just for my other two daughters. And one day, this is the time of real big change. One day I was sitting watching Oprah. And on Oprah, there was a lady, Betty Eadie, was on as her guest speaker, and she was speaking on her near-death experience and how she was, clinically had died, and she has a story where she went so much, with the story of going through the tunnel, went to the light, and then she, while in that space, she was actually told, why it is that we're really here. What is this all about? What is this spiritual journey? And I watched in awe, and I felt a ton of bricks come off my shoulders, and it was like it just made sense to me. So from a soul level, what she was speaking about just made sense. And I can't, reference that word for word at this stage because that was 22 years ago.
Of course.
So I went and bought her book. And that was it. That was the beginning. And then I had this flash of word enlightenment, and what was this about? What was awakening? What did enlightenment mean? So then I continued to. I was living in the country at this time, down near Cootamundra. So it was, it was very. The foundation of the country towns was very, very strongly Christian. So I had to sort of like sneak behind the back aisles to find the books on spirituality.
Yes.
And I did, and then I moved on to do Reiki. So I was that was my first stepping stone. So I continued to do Reiki with a Tibetan Buddhist sannyasin from Melbourne.
It's interesting that Reiki seems to be a beginning, an introduction to a lot of this for a lot of people.
Yes, it is. It truly is an amazing doorway in. And I think it's because we're bringing our attention to our spiritual body and our etheric bodies, and where it's straight away. We're giving our intention to spirit is what definitely the doorway in.
Yes.
So I came down to Melbourne a couple of times and did my masters with my teacher Russell down there, who's since passed on. Yet it just changed my life around. So I continued on with that. Oh my goodness! And then that just opened up like a world of. It was like a child stepping into a lolly shop.
Yes, I know that feeling. Yes.
Yummy things to taste. So I went from there, and then I continued on with studying Tibetan Buddhism. And then here's the interesting thing. So every time I'd step into an organised religion, I would get so far, and then I'd think, no, this I can't fully commit to this because I have a family and I have a mortgage and I've got to go to work. So it always seemed to be limited me. And then I'd go off and I went and studied Hinduism. I did Kriya Yoga for many years.
Right.
And then I did spent many years in what is called a course in mastery, which is an extended version of A Course in Miracles.
Right, yep.
So I stepped deeply into the Christ teachings for a while. But again, and it was an awesome experience, and at this stage, I had taught over 2,000 people Reiki in a matter of from 98 to 2005. So I was fully immersed in it. And then one day, I just said, there's still something missing. There was still a sense of dissatisfaction. And I was basically ready to throw the towel in and thought, well, what it did was at least it took my mind off the death of my daughter.
Yeah. And
took me somewhere else and helped me understand things. But there was it was the place of the deep dissatisfaction that was the next moment, the next turnaround. And I had had some amazing moments of, enlightened experiences through the past 15 years.
Yes.
Meeting with, all the ascended masters, channeling, doing all these different techniques on healing, you name it. It was like been there, done all of it. But then there was this still space of emptiness. So I stopped everything. I stopped teaching. I took all of my books down to the local New Age shop. I said, here, have them all, give them away. I'm just going to go back to being normal again.
Yeah.
So that was that concept of chop wood, carry water. And in the space of stopping and letting it all go, with a little bit of frustration, there was still I'm still frustrated because I just did all of that and spent all this money, and I've been on pilgrimages and travelled the world and sat before the feet of the gurus, you name it. And it's like, there's still something missing. And and then in that moment there was another incredible experience occur, which was where my communication then came directly from consciousness.
Right.
And that consciousness was, and I have to just say consciousness because it was no thing. It was not, it didn't have a form. It was no longer represented by a deity. It was no longer represented by any sort of cosmic being or
disembodied entity or guide or
yeah, it was nothing. It was nothing like that. And of course, then when that sort of spoke to me, but you know, I'm talking about speaking that is wordless.
Yes.
So the communication from that being was so much different to all of those 15 years I did searching and seeking outside of myself, looking for God or looking for something in a form, and that would come to me, and I could do this, and I could get a moment of that experience. But all of that in the space of impermanence, you know, there was always that would come and it would go, and so there's always this continuous seeking to get that feeling. But when this occurred, it was like, oh my God, this was just like this permanent resting, this amazing place of it was just like a download and an embodiment of the essence of the divine, however that is to people. And it was just it was such a simple and direct approach. It wasn't. So this is what happened.
Did you have that sort of ironic moment where the teacher inside of you said, oh, I've been teaching people to go within all this time, and suddenly when I go within, I find what I was looking for?
Yes. Yeah, and actually we were only speaking at a amazing group of about 80 people only the night before last, and they were a lot of the elderly community, and they've come out of Christianity, but they're stepping into a sort of like they're on the fence between spirituality and Christianity.
Right.
And that's exactly what I said to them. Here we all are teaching, you know, go within, and you know what? It was whatever we're saying, go within. It's a doing.
Yeah.
Right. And the concept of doing is in the concept of time. We're doing something. So go there. Come here. Go there. It's past. It's future. So it's in the human experience. The concept of time.
Yes.
So this was like, stop telling people to go there and
be there.
Show people how to just rest in that place. Yeah. So to be there and rest in that deep, that core and that ground of being within, so deep within our own hearts and soul, you know, in our own hearts. And so that was, that was incredible. I wish, wow, why didn't I get this? You know, 15 years ago, it was so frustrating. And yet, one of the questions I always get asked is, oh yeah, but if you didn't do all that stuff, you might not have ever got there. But what I've found now that what I find now is, you know, you can take any person from any walks of life, and all you've got to do is be able to just get them to sense this, to direct them into resting in this place, and it's like, bazinga, they're there. You know, and you don't have to tell them to do anything. It's just directing them into that place. And so my answer to that question is no. You don't have to do all those things.
Because you can bypass the dogma.
Totally. Absolutely. But of course, I didn't know that back then. But, yeah.
We have to go on a journey to get to that, don't we?
Yeah. And but what I'm seeing today is, Steve, that, as I said, like, people can, all they need to do is be directed to that place and they get it. You know, we do a lot of retreats in Bali. I go twice a year and do a retreat called True Awakening.
Right. And
in that retreat, it's an opportunity for, you know, I get, you know, about, you know, 26 people join every time we come over, and in that group, in the dynamics of that group, there's people that have been on the journey for 50 years, or 5 years, or just they've noticed something about meditation and inner peace a week ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
funny. I've come across that myself in my own experiences, where your physical age has very little to do with how quickly you're going to get there.
absolutely, absolutely. And even for, and then even the age doesn't matter, because still a 40-year-old could just have this moment of realization a week ago, and then come along.
Now
The only thing
sorry, yep. The only thing
that's a little bit more difficult for people that are older is that they have a whole lot of conditioning and programs that's really stagnant in them, and so sometimes you've got to kind of work with them a little bit harder.
Yeah, true. Yeah, all that ingrained, pent-up stuff over many years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, your book, Return to Soul, had you written that before or after this experience?
Okay, so I had written it. It only came out 2 years ago.
Right.
So the first part basically speaks about the journey, and a bit like what I explained. And then the second and third part is ways, insights, meditations, just guidance to get a little bit of understanding for other people. So it's sort of like a story at the beginning, but then it's a guidebook in part 2 and 3.
Right.
But it came out after I just finished my 4,000-word assignment at university, and it was sort of like from that straight into writing the book. So it's been a whole compilation of the beginning right through everything and the journey I took. And then I also went to university to do my bachelor's degree in social science.
Right.
And that was an opportunity to be able to have it also evidence-based research, so I can always find there's always a place where I can refer it back to. That way it's, I have the qualifications that goes along with writing the story. And I'm not just a new age hippie.
You definitely don't look like that on your website, that's for sure. It's very professional, well presented, so yeah, there's no hippie there, that's for sure.
Yeah. I used to dress like a hippie though. But that was all part of the thing,
I think we all have those moments, don't we?
Yeah.
So you
hippie's
call
good. Hippie's good.
Yeah, hippie's okay, So you're an author and a spiritual teacher. So what does your spiritual teaching sort of comprise of these days?
Okay. So at this point, I have our foot in different doors. So I have my foot in community services and training, doing workplace training in mindfulness.
Right.
For whenever a hand goes up in the system for, locally, if any of the women's health centres, or even working with men's health, between myself and my partner Darren, who we can talk about in a minute. So we're there, and then so we have a private office over here in New South Wales, and so we work there with counselling, and then we have workshops. So I teach a form of transcendental meditation. I call it Absolute Soul. And that's transcendental consciousness meditation. So that's a really, really beautiful way of, it's about understanding the mind and transcending the human concept and the mind and the thoughts, and to help really direct you into a place of liberation and freedom. And then we have the retreats, which are in Bali and next year in Vanuatu, and that's the True Awakening retreats. And I still teach Reiki because I've been teaching for such a long time. Every now and then I get people who word of mouth wants me to teach. So I still tick my toe back in the Reiki, because I know, as you said, originally that, it is such a beautiful stepping stone.
Yes.
What I do though when I teach Reiki is I really am clear to get these other people to understand that this is just energy work, and that this is a beautiful way of understanding and heart opening and moving into silence and understanding. But there's so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're doing quite a lot. And of course, as you mentioned before, you also work with your partner, Darren, and you have a thing called Maxwell and Collins Soul Centered Therapies. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay, so that's our counselling. That's our counselling services.
Mm-hmm.
Darren's also done his bachelor's degree in social science. So I specialised in counselling psychology, and Darren in coaching psychology.
Right.
So he works with men's mental health. The thing is that because we both went into university with we already had our spiritual foundation. So we went in there and with an understanding that we're going to learn mainstream laws and regulations and around social development and psychological development of human beings and society. But we had this broader knowing. So what we had to do was we used our broader knowing of universal consciousness and cosmic intelligence. We used that to actually integrate it into what it was that we were having to do with our work at uni.
I was actually going to ask if you had a problem with the two different sort of mindsets there.
No, it was really exciting because in university there is a lot of amazing professors that study consciousness.
Right.
It's just incredible. Like there was nothing that we could not have connected up that was not evidence-based, researched from really world-renowned psychologists or professors who have looked into consciousness and into quantum physics. So we were able to just straight away do all our assignments based on that.
Right.
And that could have been in reflection to contemporary society or grief and loss. It didn't matter what it was about. We were always able to infiltrate that understanding, that intelligence into what our assessments was. So it was really exciting actually that we were able to do that. And we made a bit of, we made a few connections in the university where people wanted to then go, come and do Reiki, and they wanted to do meditation. So
that's fantastic.
It was really cool. So Darren and I do that together, as I said, in our offices. But he is a psychic shaman. So
and
Darren
also
and I
an
met,
author.
And he's also an author, correct,
yes.
and a spiritual teacher. So Darren's book, and he's got a book and oracle coming out just in the next month. We've been working. Yeah. And Darren's also a regular on Psychic TV, on television on 4ME. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, there's another place that's really interesting that we've got our toe in there as well, because a lot of people who have problems or going through any sort of trauma, in Australia, a lot of people won't go to psychologists or counsellors, yet they'll ring up a psychic.
Yes, that's very true.
Which it has its craziness and all. But the thing is, we know that when he's on television, and sometimes I go in, we're giving really clear guidance from our understanding. Yeah. And he's helping so many people that ring up. And it's really like counselling over the phone. But the good part about that is that we've got our qualifications.
Yes. Well, we're certainly looking forward to talking to Darren separately sometime in the near future here on Soul to Soul.
Yeah.
But yep. I was curious. You were talking about you're glad that you have your qualifications. How exactly do you think that's enhanced what you were doing already?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, really, it's really good. So I was someone who really, truly opened up to the world of consciousness, as I said, like by doing Reiki, by connecting up with psychic energy, and teaching. What university did for me was to actually, it showed me more that there is evidence base on real consciousness, not just a flippy sort of a airy-fairy sort of a consciousness, spiritual teaching, and that. But it also, it's sort of like it gave me like this understanding. It's like a maturity. There was a lot of benefits in relationship to group work dynamics, understanding the psychological dynamics of a group and working with them. That I know that in the past when I was teaching Reiki as professional as I was guided by my master, that there was a few things that I wasn't trained in, and they were actually the ethics and the dynamics around being a teacher. So it taught me that. It taught me a lot about boundaries where I was just such a free spirit that it was is a little bit too free. So it helped get my boundaries back into place, and it helped us become authors. It structured our mind. It put us in a place where it also structured and balanced. It balanced philosophy, psychology, and spirituality, consciousness. It balanced it instead of it being just one or just the other. So it's not just about psychology, because that's just the mind. Yeah. And it's not just about spirituality, because, that's just the absolute. But together it gave us a really, really much more stable, stronger balance holistic, in our view. Understanding.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
And we also do workshops together. So we do stillness in motion. I do the stillness and Darren does the motion, because he actually teaches about psychic energy and understanding the whole of the psychic, the spiritual energy of the whole of the earth and the seasons. So from that shamanic point of view.
Right. Oh, fantastic. We certainly look forward to talking to him about that. Yeah. Now, Robin, what's ahead for you? I know you're super busy with 10 billion things that you're doing there, but where you see yourself heading in the near future?
Oh, the world is our oyster. Yeah. Okay, the kids are grown up and left home. So, we've both been married. We've got 8 kids between us.
Wow.
So, and we've got grandkids. So we're normal Aussies. Darren has come from the blue collar mining industry, and I've come from being a mother, bringing up children, and working and doing, working as well as being mother and wife. But now it's like all that part of our life is ended, and we are at the place now where our books are out. So my books and CDs out, as I said, Darren's book and his oracle called the Sacred Shaman Oracle. That'll be out in a couple of weeks. So our vision now is the world is our oyster. I can't give you. We're actually totally surrendered to the universe at this stage, and we have so much faith and love and understanding in the journey of the soul and our union and our oneness with the whole of the divine, the whole of the creation of life, that we're just in the river flowing now, and waiting for those opportunities and doors to open, meeting people. We're starting to travel a lot, and hoping to get to Melbourne very, very soon.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you down here.
Yeah. Well, actually, hopefully, we've got a lot of students from Melbourne that are, asking for us to come over there, come down to teach. So that'll be, then, so we're basically going to be, doing anything and speaking and helping people understand their soul's journey and their purpose.
Sounds like a wonderful place to be. Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. It's living the dream.
Living the dream, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
in a combi. We don't have a combi now. We can have a Winnebago. Living the dream in a Winnebago, but we're just still waiting for the Winnebago to come along.
So. Okay, that's the next step, right?
Yes.
Now, Robin, if people want to contact you, how can they best do that?
Okay, so Facebook, we're on Facebook, so it's Robin Collins, and please friend me. That would be fantastic. I have a personal page and a business page, so the personal page is the best one because at least I can interact more with people.
Yep.
And they always show, what there's always constantly you can keep in touch with what events and what things are coming up. And then I have a website, which is www.robincollins.com.au. And when you go into that, there's also a registration page, so you can go in there to receive newsletters. People can connect to me by email. You can get that off. You can get my email and my phone number off the website as well.
Yep. And of course, for Soul to Soul listeners, all those contacts will be available on the Soul to Soul Facebook page as we speak. Okay, well, look, Robin, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and we wish you every success for the ongoing ride that you're on.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to talk to you. Yeah, thank you.
Our pleasure. Soul to Soul.